This is the Sweet Spot, and we're just days away from a very curious quadrennial ritual here in our great republic.
Happy days are here again.
And it's a very odd kind of, I think the political conventions, which is what I'm talking about, sort of fulfill the definition of what they call a pseudo event now, because nothing, or I'll ask you, I mean, you're closer to covering this world certainly than I am. I'm just, I've seen the Manchurian Candidate a bunch of times. Do people pay attention? I guess that's the question.
The modern political convention, I think we could date back to FDR in 1932. For a while, it was the best show on TV. You had these tremendous floor fights and fights over platforms and
there was suspense, yeah.
Protesters coming in. Now we're at the point where the Republicans hired a guy who'd produced television before. They built a $2.5 million set. The platform is nailed together so tight there won't be a wiggle or a wobble.
You think that these are the conventions are kind of declining in
The conventions
significance?
are always declining, always, and they always seem to somehow maintain their ratings throughout. But there's a whole move into new media, and instead of gavel to gavel, we're going pixel to pixel, and I thought it'd be worthwhile to stop down and talk to Brian Stelter, our friend and colleague, about how convention coverage is changing. Brian, I imagine as a kid that you watched a few conventions on television. Are you going to watch this time around?
I'm going to watch the hour that the networks broadcast just because it's a nice campfire to gather around, and because I know 40 million other people will do the same thing.
Right.
But it won't be to gather news because I know I'm not getting any real news from it.
It used to be, conventions, they'd sound the gong, the three networks would show up, the anchor desk would be up high.
Right.
Now these places are crawling with media outlets, all of whom are filming every single thing.
And looking for something that distinguishes them, which is actually very little. One thing that distinguishes them, though, is ideology. And as you point out, sites like Huffington Post that have a lot of, in their case, for their new network, a lot of progressive thinking anchors. Not every one of them, but a lot of them. Let's take a liberal network, though, MSNBC. 4 years ago, Rachel Maddow wasn't even an anchor there. The channel wasn't fully liberal. Well, now it is. And she's the anchor of conventions along with Chris Matthews. There's all these companies that promote themselves, all these media companies that show up with parties, with swag. CNN bringing its CNN Grill back, all the morning shows, the cable morning shows like Morning Joe, buy out diners and take over. It is very much a PR event, not just for the campaigns, but sometimes also for media companies around it.
Don't you think the fact that a lot of reporters go is because a lot of reporters
For sure. It reminds me of South by Southwest, a conference that I admit I probably have gone to because everybody else in that class or sect goes to. Conventions don't seem very different from that.
The convention last time around, it was reporters all with webcams turning toward each other and say, so what do you think about what I think that you think that we think about, that it's become this petri dish of over-mediated experience where there really is literally nothing to feed on.
But it's so expensive. I mean, there's so much money sloshing around in Charlotte and in Tampa this year. Hundreds of millions of dollars. You could almost, make a superhero movie out of the money that these guys are spending.
Don't you think spending tens of millions of dollars producing a show about nothing is about the most American thing you could think of?
Well, given that I review on a weekly basis things that cost hundreds of millions of dollars that are about nothing, I guess I have to take your point there.
Here's what I want to say about
but
it.
I don't know. Those are a lot more fun.
This is evolved into a grand spectacle, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
It's made for television. Television has less and less interest. I'll tell you what bugs me about being there is I generally like to cover dissent at these conventions. There's none inside the hall. So you head out and they become a nexus and a node for protesters, right? In Denver, in St. Paul, but most especially in Denver with the Democrats, the protesters were so far away behind chain link that you could not even hear them from the. And when I was inside the security bubble and trying to get out, they wouldn't let me leave. And so I'm waving my badge around saying, I'm credentialed to come in here. I should be able to
And they
leave
won't
it.
let you leave.
They wouldn't
Yes.
let me leave. And
Yes,
so
the land of the free, yeah.
The illusion that we're coming together and we're having an actual political discussion, no. We're making a television show. Not a lot of suspense.
Although,
right?
you know what?
You want to engage in...
Spoiler alert, I don't know. I don't have any...
I hear you going out on a limb here.
I don't have any inside sources on this, and my record as a predictor of these things is abysmal. But I have a feeling that it's going to be Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan on the Republican side, and Barack Obama.
You're just blurting that out?
And Joe Biden. So I've saved everyone the trouble. You can watch old episodes of The Sweet Spot instead of tuning into your. So do
now
you have any predictions?
You've turned it into a show about like Seinfeld, a show about nothing.
You're the insider. You're the real, fine-grained, deep dish journalist. So what do you think is going to happen?
Okay, I'm just guessing.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen? Balloons?
Right after the balloon drop. I love it.